Hazard, a situation that poses a level of threat to life, health, property, or the environment. Once a hazard becomes active, it can create an emergency situation. Waste, unwanted substances or objects which are required to be disposed of by the provisions of national law.
Hazardous waste is waste that is harmful to human beings, animal, plants, and the environment. So it's toxic that is not good for human well-being.
The word hazardous refers to the characteristics of a particular thing. For example, it could be a highly flammable thing, or it could be explosive in nature.
The people are trying to also get some resources from waste, but now they get in contact with the hazardous one, in which case then it affects their health. And of course now we are having people dying, we are having a lot of new diseases, we are having so many other effects. The world has agreed that this is a problem that we need to deal with, and every country has actually committed itself to deal with it.
We all generate waste, and we should all be responsible for the waste that we generate.
There's another waste stream that has become quite important. Quite for a long time it has been there, but in the shadows, in the sense that it's a solid thing. It's about the tires. All the countries don't really consider the tires as a priority. It's considered like any general waste. Tires are considered just like paper, cardboard, plastic, anything that can actually be taken and lost. And if you don't want to throw it, you keep it, it's yours.
Somebody's sitting down somewhere and producing more tires and enjoying the revenue out of tires. And then the tires are being passed on to the consumer. And then when they reach their lifespan, it is a major problem.
Big problem with tires worldwide is you can't get rid of it by only dumping it. So it is a problem working the tires away, because what they do at the moment is they dump it, and everybody knows that after a few years the tires works itself to the surface, but in that whole period all the soil is full of hazardous waste.
You can't dig a hole on the ground and put a tire. It will eventually, just pop up.
Normally, most of the tires end up at landfills and dump sites, where they may be collected by some scavengers if the dump sites are not properly managed.
I think to a very large extent, Africans don't necessarily consider tires as a hazardous good at all. You will see in winter across the African continent, they actually burn the tires and they congregate around the tire.
It's really not a concern to many people. People are not aware of the dangers.
The biggest challenge is public awareness of what is hazardous waste, of that not all the waste in your household is general waste. There is hazardous waste or waste with properties that make it a risk to you as a human being or to the environment in general.
Tires are hazardous in the sense that the composition of a tire includes rubber, it includes acids once it's burned.
The chemicals that have actually been used there now come out. They keep coming out and going back into the environment, and those are also carcinogenic. It now impacts directly on the human health. These are hazardous because they can cause cancers. There will be some diseases that we never knew about, and we'll never be able to even link them to what we started doing some 50 years or 100 years ago. We need to do the right things now to protect even the future generations for 200 years or beyond.
Within the African continent, waste tires are numerous. The rapid growth of second-hand tires is becoming an increasing concern for many of the countries that are affected.
We have a situation in Africa whereby, yes, we produce tires, we make new tires, but because of the economic factors, the whole secondary business of selling used tires is actually growing. They actually have gone to a point of importing tires from other countries outside of Africa. So they basically bring it here, and now we have a lot of influx of tires.
We have tires coming in, not connected to the vehicle, but you know, tires as products that are imported into the country.
Where we are right now is an informal market in Zambia called Soweto, one of the biggest informal markets in the country. This is where you find most of the hazardous waste in the region, tires especially. They come from outside the country and they're traded from here for various reasons.
This tire from South Africa, I used to sell these people who have vehicles. So they're second hand? It's second hand. If that used tires, if he finished the job from the vehicles, we used to sell with the box cuts.
They are lying all over in all the urban areas of Lesotho. You can find them in almost nearby any workshops.
What we see here is a tire repair center. Pretty much around the whole continent, this repair center is an informal business. People come in whenever their tires have punctures, and then they get to be changed here. And then they leave the tire here because they no longer need that tire.
It's the SMEs, the people that you find in the small street corners selling tires, because that's where the bigger chunk of the tires is.
It is a concern. In fact, one of the strategies we've been thinking of is maybe preventing the import of used tires to begin with, because that's a time bomb, and especially if we don't develop industries that will deal or recycle or reuse that waste stream.
We get around about 5,000 tons of used tires annually, out of which 10% reaches our landfill. So we know that used tires has got a problem because very often during summer, when you have heavy rains, it becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
It has always been a problem. The municipality doesn't know what to do with them. Sometimes I've seen some of them just thrown into the landfill. They are along the side and just sitting there.
The lack of proper collection systems results in most tires landing up in landfills. These landfill sites often do not have the proper facilities to dispose of it in a safe and sustainable manner.
We are here at the city official dump site. This is the destination of every unwanted substance in the city. We have tires as well, and this is a very bad situation. All the chemicals get out of these tires and then are taken by the water down the water stream, and they end up in our water courses where we draw the water for the city. This dump site is supposed to be for general waste. So hazardous waste should be stopped, should be barred from coming into here and be dealt separately in a special way.
Most waste disposal sites are not equipped to deal with the problems caused by tires. Some landfills are trying different ways to manage it.
There are informally organized landfills like in Windhoek. They are shredded and, of course, covered.
The problem with tires on the landfill is that they don't compact. So as such, they actually take up more airspace. Actually minimizes your lifespan of a landfill site. And also if you happen to landfill it as it is, with time it will punch up and then it comes to the surface again. Currently we acquired tire cutters. It's an equipment that just cut tires in quarters. And then at least it is in small portions, and then you can mix it with waste, and then it can actually compact a bit, and then it won't float again.
Ramudu Originals landfill receive tires, and an average is about 60 tons. We have a tire shredder, of which we shred tires to make them into smaller pieces, of which subsequently we landfill it. Tires as they are right now, they are a fire risk, and the fact that they are occupying a space, in future they might reduce the lifespan of the landfill. If at all, they are not going to be handled in a manner that it will reduce their sizes.
We are presently in Mauritius on the landfill site, which is a unique landfill in Mauritius, and the name is Moshiko's landfill. We receive about 1,100 tons of waste per day. The tires, we try to reuse it on site. We use it on the capping, or we use it as embankments. So when we're constructing retaining walls, we try to use tires as a sort to help the soil from eroding. Normally, there are specific companies who come for the disposal of tires only. So the stockpiles that you can see all around, it has been earmarked for the stockpiling.
If at all we are going to keep on stockpiling all these tires, in future they are going to create a problem for us because they occupy more space within the landfill site.
What we need is to develop a system whereby when somebody changes their old tires, they actually join a formal system instead of finding themselves in the communities where they get banned.
What we've seen in South Africa is that, yes, they do stockpile, but government brought out a new initiative called Redisa. The idea behind that is that Redisa takes in all the tires and they distribute it to people who can then in turn work the tires away with a legitimate technology.
The best way to resolve this issue of tires is to recycle the tires.
With so many old and abandoned tires lying around, some people have begun to see tires not as a waste, but as a resource. There are those who find a new use for the tire in its solid form, and there are others who extend the life of the tire by retreading it.
There are some retreading factories, so before the tires come here, so they take the tires and do the retreading.
We are in Mauritius, and the name of the company is Compagnie Mauricienne de Commerce Limited. Our company is doing retreading of tires for more than 80 years, and we are the oldest company doing retreading of tires in Africa. By doing this, we are preventing tires going stray in the nature, and some tires are being retread for some time, twice or third time. People get a bad thinking about retread tires because when they see a piece of tread on the road, they think that the retread is not good. But very often, the piece of tread is with the casing also. It's a casing failure, not a retread failure. By retreading tires by a local company like ours, we are not expanding our foreign currencies by importing tires in Mauritius. I think this is a big advantage by retreading tires. So instead of buying new tires.
There are also initiatives created that use tires to prevent soil erosion. Although these initiatives mean well, they are unaware of the hazards that tires can pose over time.
We are in Lesotho, just outside Maseru, in a river called Tlametu, where there is a program for soil conservation here to try to stop the soil to be eroded away. The program started with several other means of arresting this, and this time around they are using tires to try to stop the erosion to carry on. The tires themselves have been classified as hazardous waste. The more the tires stay here, the more they get contact with the water, the more they get the exposure from the sun, these chemicals are going to be released into the water. This issue of water contamination from this becomes even more compounded by the fact that Lesotho is sharing the waters with the neighboring countries through the rivers. It is going into South Africa and eventually through to Namibia. So it is going to be an international problem, not only a localized problem. The usage of tires in this form clearly indicates that awareness or even knowledge about tires as a hazardous waste is totally not there. People are not aware, they don't know that these are very dangerous as they are.
There has to be a very concerted effort to raise awareness, to try to make people realize and know that this is actually hazardous. Therefore, find means of disposing them in environmentally sound manner. And we also have to further go find other means of using them in a friendlier manner, or at least to produce some other products that can also make sure that we don't have the littering around.
Companies like EnviroServe in South Africa believe that there is a great potential in the recycling of tires.
The drive for zero waste to landfill, that's where we come in and trying to make sure the tires don't go to landfill. The tire comes as a used tire, it gets supplied through the reducer channel. The primary focus of this plant is recycling. In the tire plant, what we're doing, we are trying to utilize close to 90 to 95% of the tire that we recycle. The tire gets debeaded by basically taking the bead wire out of the tire, which is quite tough. It then secondly goes into our primary shredder. And that is really reducing the size of the tire into a chip, approximately 25 to 30 millimeters in size. The core things that we see as a finished tire that we will get, we get your rubber crumb, which is probably the premium product that we would like to supply for the road industry, the brick industry, as well as the carpeting and fibers and even some paving. Then what we also get is fine wires. And then there's the rubber and wire combination that we have. And then obviously the fluff. We definitely see tires as an opportunity, not only just locally, but abroad. The responsibility is with us. And I think that is what our company, EnviroServe, is really on about, to start thinking about how can we be part of that reduction to landfill.
It is not only big companies that can do their part in solving the used tire problem. Local businessmen have found that they too can create a new product from old tires.
Now the people, they try to do something with the waste tires. There are some informal sectors who are trying to make products from that waste tires. One, we're making sandals, and the other one, we make some cushion or bush for the cars. So that's the kind of the innovative that I think it can be promoted, and then many people can use waste tires to make such products.
People are very resourceful in the use of the tires. They make sandals for people to buy. Others, they make use of them to crush stones for mining purposes. They use them as a resource that they can use to make money and that they can make use of. And actually, there is a short supply of the tires as we find them here.
Tires are made from various chemical components that left over time can poison our environment. But there are those entrepreneurs who have found ways to break down the tires into separate components, which they can then resell or reuse. One such company is Graham Fuel Systems.
Tires we didn't see as waste at all. The big thing how we did this was to keep in mind sustainability. The idea behind that was, what can we do with tires in a sustainable way to help community and contribute to job creation? And that's how the whole idea behind tires started, because tires has got a lot of carbon in it. And that's the technology, breaking down the carbon links in tires. We take the tire either in the form of a dust or chunks of tires with the wire included. We put it in the process. When the process runs and it gets to the end, you end up with what we call the multi-fuel, which is industrial heating oil. And you've got two byproducts. The first being hydrogas, which we use for generation of electricity. The second being carbon black, which is in turn used back into the production of tires, paint, chemicals, stuff like that. So there's no waste after the process is finished. We operate in a closed loop system, meaning there's no emissions that passes through the processing of the tires. This is basically a normal pyrolysis system. The only difference is that pyrolysis technology overseas, there's a lot in the Philippines and China, Singapore countries, but they burn the tires, meaning there's a lot of emissions coming off. We don't burn the tires, we do it through thermal heating, which means there's no emissions coming off. So you end up with the fuel. We put the gas either directly from the system into a gas generator to generate electricity, meaning you can take the containers, which is movable. You can take it to wherever you want to process the tires, and you don't need any electricity point because you can supply that from the genset in the container. You can now take the solution to the problem, basically. The nice thing about the technology is the job creation behind this, because this allows now people from ground level up until the operator, and we can even contribute to providing skilled labor as we can train the people at the office operating these machines. People can be self-sustaining, communities can be self-sustaining.
So we need to partner closer than we are at the moment and be practical in terms of providing solutions that would address this problem such that we're able to have 100% recycling.
There is a solution for the problem, and it's not an expensive solution. It can contribute to the economy, it can contribute to any job creation situation. And what we would like them to know is that it works, it's real, it is here, it's happening.
The African continent still has the advantage that they still see themselves as a family. They still are holding to the traditional way of raising their children and raising a nation and coming together as a society. That by itself allows the people to actually work together, and that is quite unique. There is a force that actually brings people together to say, no, we are a society, we are a people, we are supposed to deal as a society. That element is the unique element that will take Africa forward.
It's very important that we work together in terms of recycling because what we do today is to the benefit of the future for tomorrow.
We can learn from the management of other waste streams. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
We would really love to learn and to have new technologies from other countries as to how best to manage the tires. I mean, that would be really, really great, yeah.
My dream of Africa without hazardous substance, we don't need a lot of money to do that, but we need to invest in the human capacity. We need to invest in our own people. We need to have a very clear vision, clear leadership that actually brings us together as a people. The African continent is going to lead the world in the next millennium.
Pulling together as a team, there's the star that we want to reach, but we can only reach it if we work together as a team, if there's that strong synergy to drive together, to maintain the integrity of our environments, for our children and their children, so that when their time comes, they will be proud to look back and say, our great grandmothers and fathers have done it good for us.
Thank you.